Ladies, let's cut to the chase. Picture this. You're standing next to a guy who's not just dreaming of changing the world, he's dead set on rewriting the rules of the universe. Not some small time hustle like picking out new curtains or tweaking a business plan, but colonizing Mars, making gas guzzling cars as obsolete as flip phones, and wiring human brains to keep up with artificial intelligence. That's me, Elon Musk, and I'm not here to talk about rockets, electric cars, or brain chips today. I'm here to talk about you, the woman who can stand shoulder to shoulder with someone like me, or anyone with a fire in their soul big enough to burn through the impossible. But let me be clear, my standards aren't just high, they're stratospheric, like a starship orbiting Mars at 25,000 miles per hour. So the question is, do you have what it takes to be the woman who doesn't just change one man's life, but reshapes the future of humanity? Buckle up, because I'm about to lay out the 5 qualities that make you not just a partner, but a legend. Let me take you back to a moment that defined me. It's 2008, and Tesla's on the brink of collapse. I'm sleeping on a couch in the Fremont factory, surrounded by half-built cars, with a team running on fumes and Red Bull, the world screaming that electric cars are a pipe dream, that I'm flushing my fortune down the drain on a bet no one else believes in. Picture this. We're burning through $1 million a week. I'm $40 million in debt, and every news outlet's writing my obituary, calling me a reckless dreamer who's bitten off more than he can chew. Meanwhile, SpaceX is no better. Our first 3 rocket launches have gone up in flames. Literally, millions of dollars, years of work, reduced to fireballs over the Pacific. Everyone, friends, investors, even some of my own team is telling me to quit, to walk away, to play it safe. But I didn't. Why? Because I don't believe in safe. I believe in the impossible. I believe life's too short for anything less than extraordinary. That's the kind of fire I'm talking about, ladies. The kind that keeps you up at night, that makes your heart race, that drives you to keep going when the world says you're crazy. I didn't build Tesla to make a few electric cars. I built it to kill the internal combustion engine, to give humanity a shot at a sustainable future. At SpaceX, it's not about launching satellites. It's about making us a multiplanetary species, ensuring our survival beyond Earth. At Neuralink, we're not just tinkering with brain chips, we're trying to merge human consciousness with AI to keep us relevant in a world changing faster than a Tesla Roadster, hitting 60 miles per hour in 1.9 seconds. These aren't small dreams. They're the kind that make people laugh, call you a lunatic, tell you to give up. But I've never listened to the naysayers, and I never will. So when I think about the woman I want by my side, I'm not looking for someone to clap from the sidelines or stroke my ego. I I'm looking for a partner who's as relentless, as driven, as unapologetically ambitious as I am, but in her own way. Someone who doesn't just keep up, but pushes me to go further, faster, harder. Someone who looks at the chaos of my world building companies, defying gravity, rewiring brains, and says, I'm in. Let's make this epic. This isn't about arrogance, it's about purpose. The universe is vast, the challenges are immense, and if we're not aiming for the stars, what's the point? I'm not here to settle for good enough, and neither should you. Let's get real for a second. I've faced failure more times than I can count. There was a time when Tesla was bleeding cash so fast, I thought we'd be done for. I was sleeping on the factory floor, living on energy drinks, with 40,000 jobs on my shoulders, and the world betting against me. People called me a fool, a dreamer, said I was doomed. But I kept going because I believed in something bigger than myself, whether it's colonizing Mars or saving our planet from choking on fossil fuels. That's what drives me, and that's why I'm so particular about the woman I want to share my life with. She's not just a wife, she's a co-conspirator, a partner in crime. Someone who gets that life isn't about playing it safe. It's about betting everything on a vision worth fighting for. Now, ladies, this isn't just about what I want, it's about what you can become. What's your Mars? What's the one thing that gets you out of bed, that makes your pulse race, that keeps you going when everyone else says it's impossible? Maybe it's starting a business that changes lives, creating art that moves souls, or raising a family that reshapes the future. Whatever it is, own it. Make it your North Star. Because when you commit to something bigger than yourself, you start to see the world differently. You start to demand more, not just from others, but from yourself. And that's where the magic happens. I approach everything like a first principles problem, strip it down to the core, figure out what's essential, and build from there. When I started SpaceX, people said reusable rockets were impossible. I didn't take their word for it. I went back to the physics, crunched the numbers, and proved them wrong. The same applies to relationships. I'm not interested in what society says a partnership should look like: flowers, candlelit dinners, some Hollywood fantasy. I'm interested in what makes a relationship work when you're trying to do something epic. And that starts with demanding more from yourself and the people around you. Let me share a story. Back when we were trying to get SpaceX off the ground, pun intended, our first three launches failed. Boom, boom, boom. Millions of dollars, years of work gone in seconds. The team was crushed, investors were bailing, and I was questioning everything. And those moments, I didn't need someone to fix it for me. I needed someone to believe in the mission, to stand by me and say, Elon, this is worth it. Keep going. That's the kind of partnership I'm talking about. One that's not just about love, but about purpose. It's about finding someone who sees the bigger picture, who gets that the failures, the long nights, the crazy ideas are all part of something worth fighting for. Ladies, you're not here to be someone's arm candy or to fill a void. You're here to be a co-creator, a catalyst, a spark that ignites something extraordinary. But to do that, you've got to raise your own bar. Think about the great achievements in history: the pyramids, the moon landing, the internet. They didn't come from people who settled for good enough. They came from people who pushed, who innovated, who demanded excellence. That's what I'm asking of you. Don't just be a woman who's nice or pretty. Be a woman who's indispensable. Be the one who makes someone think, I can't imagine my life without her. And more importantly, be the woman who looks in the mirror and knows she's living up to her own potential. I've always said life is about solving hard problems. At Tesla, we didn't just build electric cars, we redefined what a car could be with a range of 400 miles and zero emissions. At Neuralink, we're not just messing with brain chips, we're trying to keep humanity relevant in an AI-driven world. That's the scale I think on. And the woman I want by my side, she's got to get that. She's got to be all in, not just for me, but for her own dreams. Because settling for less gets you nowhere. When I started Tesla, people said electric cars would never sell. When I launched SpaceX, NASA laughed at the idea of a private company building rockets. Every time I've ignored the doubters and aimed higher, I've come out stronger. This talk isn't about putting anyone down. It's about lifting you up, about showing you what's possible when you embrace your own potential. The 5 qualities I'm going to share aren't just my checklist, they're a blueprint for becoming a force of nature, for building a life that's meaningful, impactful, and worth fighting for. So, ladies, ask yourself, what's your mission? What's your Mars? Are you ready to become the kind of woman who can not only stand by someone with big dreams, but lead the charge on your own? Because when you step into that version of yourself, you don't just attract the right partner, you become unstoppable. You become the spark that lights up the universe, the one who makes the impossible possible. Let's start this journey together, because the future we're building is bigger than any one of us. And it starts with daring to demand the extraordinary. All right, ladies, we've set the stage. You've heard me talk about aiming for the stars, about refusing to settle for anything less than extraordinary. Now, let's dive into the first quality that I hold non-negotiable for the woman who will stand by my side: loyalty. But hold up, this isn't some old school follow me blindly nonsense. Loyalty, in my book, is about being all in, having my back when the world's caving in, and committing to a shared mission with the same grit I bring to landing a rocket on a drone ship bobbing 500 miles out in the Atlantic. It's the bedrock of everything I do, and it's what I expect from the woman who's going to share this wild ride with me. More than that, it's a quality you need to cultivate in yourself, not just to be the partner I want, but to become a force of nature in your own right. So let's break it down, because loyalty isn't just a word, it's the steel spine of a life worth living. Picture this: it's 2006, and I'm standing on a tiny speck of an island in the Pacific, a place called Kwajalein, watching the countdown for SpaceX's first Falcon 1 launch. My heart's pounding like a jackhammer. This is it: years of work, millions of dollars, the dreams of a team that's poured their souls into this moment. 10, 9, 8, and then boom. The rocket doesn't even clear the pad before it spins out and crashes into a fireball. Everything we've built, gone in seconds. We try again. Second launch, same story: another explosion, another gut punch. By the third launch, we're out of money, the team's exhausted, and the world's writing us off as a bunch of delusional dreamers. Investors are circling like sharks, ready to pull the plug. My own friends are telling me, Elon, cut your losses. This is over. But I didn't walk away. I doubled down. Why? Because I was loyal to a vision bigger than myself, the idea that humanity deserves a future beyond Earth, that we can't just sit here burning 10 billion gallons of fossil fuels a year until the planet chokes. That's loyalty, not to a company, but to a dream that's worth every ounce of fight I've got. That's the kind of loyalty I'm talking about when I think about the woman I want beside me. She's not someone who bails when the stock market tanks or when the internet's tearing me apart for a failed launch. She's the one who looks at the chaos and says, "We've got this." She's the one who stands firm, not because it's easy, but because she knows real commitment means showing up when everything's on fire. I remember a moment when Tesla was hanging by a thread. We're talking 2008, again, not to repeat myself, but to paint a different angle. I'm living in the factory, working 100-hour weeks, trying to get the Model S out the door before we go bankrupt. The pressure's crushing 40,000 jobs, my entire fortune, and the future of electric cars on the line. I'm running on fumes, maybe 3 hours of sleep a night, and the world's betting against me. In that moment, I didn't need someone to tell me how to fix production bottlenecks. I needed a woman who'd look at me, see the fight in my eyes, and say, "I'm with you, Elon. This mission matters, and we're not giving up." That's loyalty, not just sticking around when things are good, but being there when the whole world feels like it's collapsing. Now, let's flip this around because this isn't just about what I want from you, ladies. It's about what you can become. Think about the last time you made a promise and kept it, no matter how hard it was. Maybe you finished a project when you were bone tired, or showed up for a friend when they were at their lowest, even though you had a million other things to do. That moment when you pushed through, when you honored your word, that's loyalty in action. It's not just about being faithful to a partner. It's about being faithful to yourself, to your values, to your own mission. When you cultivate that kind of loyalty, you become unshakable. You walk into a room and people feel it not because you're loud or flashy, but because you know exactly who you are and what you stand for. You become the kind of woman who commands respect without saying a word, the kind who can face any storm and say, "I'm still here." Let me get personal for a second. I've seen what happens when loyalty is missing. In business, I've had partners jump ship when the numbers look bad, investors pull out when the going got tough. It's not just disappointing, it's destabilizing. In a relationship, that's a death sentence. If I'm pouring my heart into building something, a life, a family, a shared dream, I need to know you're not going to cut and run when the critics start howling or when a project like Starship blows up on the launch pad. I'm not perfect, far from it. I've made mistakes, pushed people away, lost myself in the grind, but I've never wavered on my commitment to my goals. When I say I'm going to put humans on Mars, I mean it. When I say electric cars are the future, I mean it. That's the loyalty I bring to the table, and it's what I expect in return, not blind agreement, but a shared commitment to something bigger. Here's a story that drives this home. When we were developing the Falcon 9, we hit a wall. Early tests were a disaster, rockets failing, systems crashing, regulators breathing down our necks. One night, I'm in the control room, staring at data, trying to figure out why our booster won't stabilize. The team's demoralized, and I'm questioning everything. In that moment, I didn't need someone to solve the engineering puzzle for me. I needed a partner who'd look at me and say, "Elon, I know this is hard, but I believe in what we're doing. Keep going." That's the kind of loyalty that turns a spark into a wildfire, that takes a dream and makes it real. My team at SpaceX didn't give up after those early failures. They stayed, they fought, and now we're landing rockets on drone ships in the middle of the ocean, pulling off what NASA said was impossible. That's loyalty in action, not grand gestures, but showing up day after day when it matters most. Ladies, loyalty is a superpower. It's what separates the people who talk about changing the world from the ones who actually do it. It's in the small things, keeping your word when it's inconvenient, standing by someone when they're down, showing up when you say you will. I've had moments where I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world, scaling Tesla's battery production to 500,000 vehicles a year, getting Starship ready for Mars, dealing with regulators who wanted to shut us down. In those moments, I didn't need someone to fix everything. I needed someone to believe in me, to say, "You've got this, and I'm not going anywhere." That's what makes a partnership unstoppable. It's what makes you unstoppable. So here's your challenge. Cultivate loyalty, not just for a partner, but for yourself. Be loyal to your dreams, your vision, your potential. When you do, you become a woman who's not just desirable, you're undeniable. You become the kind of person who can walk into any room, any crisis, and say, "I'm here and I'm not backing down." Loyalty isn't just the foundation of a relationship, it's the backbone of a life that matters. It's the first step to becoming the woman who doesn't just stand by a visionary, but becomes one herself. And trust me, ladies, when you live with that kind of commitment, you're not just changing your life, you're changing the universe. All right, ladies, we've laid the foundation with loyalty, the unbreakable backbone that keeps you standing tall when the world tries to knock you down. Now, let's talk about something just as critical, something that's like the fusion reaction inside a star, lighting up everything around it. Feminine energy. Before you roll your eyes, hear me out. This isn't about outdated stereotypes or playing some submissive role, far from it. It's about the unique, powerful energy you bring as a woman, the kind that complements my relentless drive, my intensity, my obsession with reshaping the universe. I'm out here building rockets to blast us 140 million miles to Mars, cars that hit 200 miles per hour on pure electricity, and neural interfaces to sync our brains with machines. That's my world focused, aggressive, laser sharp. But to make it soar, I need a woman who brings something different to the table, not to compete with me, but to amplify me, to create a balance that makes us both unstoppable. And here's the kicker. When you lean into that feminine energy, you're not just igniting a relationship, you're unlocking your own potential to change the game. Let's paint a picture. It's 2017, and I'm in the Tesla Gigafactory in Nevada, knee deep in the chaos of scaling Model 3 production. We're trying to churn out 5,000 cars a week, but the assembly line's a mess, robots failing, supply chains breaking, and I'm clocking 120-hour weeks, living on coffee and sheer willpower. The media is having a field day, saying Tesla's doomed, that I'm in over my head. I'm in problem solving mode, crunching numbers, yelling at engineers, trying to fix a battery bottleneck that's costing us millions. In that moment, I'm a storm focused, intense, maybe even a little unhinged. What I don't need is someone jumping into the fray, matching my intensity, trying to out engineer me. What I need is a woman who can step back, see the bigger picture, and bring calm to the chaos. Maybe it's a quiet word, a touch, or just a look that says, Elon, take a breath. You're not alone. That's feminine energy, not weakness, but a power that grounds a guy who's always reaching for the stars. Feminine energy is like the design of the Tesla Cybertruck. Everyone said a bulletproof electric truck that looks like it rolled out of a sci-fi flick couldn't be done, but we didn't just slap batteries on a chassis. We created something bold, sleek, and unforgettable, something that makes your heart race just looking at it. That's what you bring to a relationship, ladies. Not just function, but beauty. Not just raw power, but elegance. I don't want a woman who tries to match my every move, who thinks she needs to be as analytical or aggressive as me. I want someone who brings a different kind of genius, emotional, intuitive, nurturing, in a way I'm not. When I'm up at 3 a.m., obsessing over a new solar panel efficiency that could hit 25%, I need someone who can pull me out of my head, remind me to feel something beyond the data, to see the world through a lens I'd miss otherwise. That's not just power, it's alchemy, turning a good partnership into something extraordinary. Let's get personal. I'm not a robot, even if Twitter likes to joke that I am. When I watch a SpaceX rocket land on a drone ship after a 500-mile journey through the atmosphere, my heart pounds like I'm a kid again. When I drive a Tesla fresh off the line, accelerating from 0 to 60 inch under 2 seconds, I feel a rush that's almost spiritual. And when I think about the woman I want by my side, I want that same electricity, not just physical attraction, though that's part of it, but a deeper pull, like two forces aligning perfectly, like the magnets in a Tesla motor, snapping together to create something stronger than either one alone. I need a woman who's confident in her femininity, who doesn't feel the need to compete with my energy but amplifies it with her own. She's the one who makes me better, not by being like me, but by being unapologetically herself. Ladies, society's been feeding you a lie that to be strong, you have to be tough, aggressive, or one of the guys. That's nonsense. Your strength lies in your difference, in your ability to nurture, to inspire, to bring warmth to a cold, calculated world. Think about the last time you made someone feel truly seen, truly understood, maybe a friend who was falling apart, a colleague who needed a boost, or even a stranger who just needed a kind word. That's feminine energy. It's not about being less than, it's about being more than. It's about bringing something to the table that I can't, something that makes the whole greater than the sum of its parts. Imagine I'm in the middle of a crisis, say a Starship prototype just blew up on a launch pad in Texas, costing $200 million, and the internet's tearing me apart. I'm in hyperdrive, analyzing telemetry data, trying to figure out why the Raptor engine failed. What I don't need is someone piling on, matching my stress with more stress. I need a woman who can bring calm to the storm, who can say, Elon, let's step back for a second. You've got this, but you don't have to carry it alone. That's the power of feminine energy, not fixing my problems, but balancing them, making me see what I'd miss in the heat of the moment. Here's a story to drive this home. When we were designing the Tesla Roadster 2, we weren't just aiming for a fast car. We wanted something that redefined what a car could be: 0 to 60 inch, 1.9 seconds, a 620-mile range, a machine that makes you feel like you're piloting a spaceship. But it wasn't just about the engineering. The design team brought something else to the table: a vision of beauty, of curves and lines that make you stop and stare. One night, I'm sketching ideas for the Roadster's aerodynamics, frustrated because the numbers aren't adding up. A designer on the team, a woman with a knack for seeing things differently, walks over and says, "What if we adjust the curve here? It's not just about drag, it's about how it feels to look at it." That perspective, that blend of intuition and creativity changed the game. That's what feminine energy does in a relationship. It's not about outdoing me, it's about seeing what I don't, feeling what I can't, and making the whole thing better than I could alone. I've learned this the hard way. In my career, I've worked with people who try to one-up me to prove they're smarter or tougher. It's exhausting. It creates friction, not progress. The same happens in relationships. If you're trying to match my intensity, my analytical drive, we're not building something, we're just butting heads. But when you bring your feminine energy, your intuition, your grace, your ability to connect on a level I can't, you create magic. It's like the difference between a rocket's raw thrust and the guidance system that keeps it on course. One without the other crashes. Together, they reach orbit. I need a woman who's that guidance system, who brings softness to my edges, who makes the mission not just possible, but beautiful. So, ladies, here's your call to action. Embrace your feminine energy. Celebrate your ability to connect, to inspire, to create moments that make life worth living. Don't buy into the lie that you need to be like me to be powerful. Your power is in your difference, in the way you can light up a room, calm a storm, or shift someone's perspective with a single insight. When you lean into that, you're not just attracting a guy like me, you're attracting a life that's bigger, bolder, more meaningful. You become the spark that ignites the universe, the kind of woman who walks into any challenge and says, "I've got something unique to bring, and it's going to change everything." That's feminine energy, and it's the second piece of the puzzle to becoming not just a partner, but a force that reshapes the world. Ladies, we've built a foundation with loyalty, the steel spine that keeps you standing when the world's trying to knock you down. We've added feminine energy, the spark that balances my relentless drive with grace and intuition. Now, let's talk about two qualities that are like the twin pillars holding up a bridge to the stars: respect and trust. These aren't just nice to haves, they're non negotiable. They're what turn a relationship from a fleeting connection into a force that can take on the universe. Respect is about seeing the value in someone's mission, even when it's messy, even when it's hard. Trust is about creating a space where the wildest dreams and deepest fears can be shared without judgment. Together, they're the glue that binds two people into a partnership that doesn't just survive, it thrives, it transforms, it changes everything. And here's the truth: when you embody respect and trust, you're not just becoming the woman I'd fight for, you're becoming someone who can face any challenge because you built a foundation no storm can shake. Let's start with respect. This isn't about flattery or ego stroking, not even close. It's about looking at a guy who's pouring his soul into something bigger than himself, say, building a 600-mile range electric truck or landing a rocket on a platform the size of a football field, and saying, "I see you. I see what you're fighting for, and I'm proud to stand by your side. Not because I'm perfect, but because you get that. My flaws, my obsessions, my 100-hour work weeks are all part of a mission to rewrite humanity's future." Let me take you to a moment that still stings. It's 2018, and Tesla's in a death spiral. We're trying to ramp up Model 3 production, but everything's going wrong. Supply chains are collapsing, robots are glitching, and we're burning through $1 million a day. I'm sleeping on the factory floor in Sparks, Nevada, living on energy drinks and adrenaline with the weight of 50,000 jobs on my shoulders. The media's calling me a fraud, saying I've overpromised and underdelivered. The internet's memes are ruthless. In that moment, I didn't need someone to tell me I was great or to fix the production line. I needed a woman who could look at the chaos, see the vision behind it, electrifying the world, cutting carbon emissions by billions of pounds, and say, "Elon, I respect why you're doing this. You're not alone." Respect shows up in the real moments, ladies. It's in the way you listen when I'm ranting about a new battery cell that could hit 400 watt hours per kilogram, even if the chemistry goes over your head. It's in the way you honor my need to push boundaries, even when it means I miss dinner or get lost in my head for days. It's in the way you stand up for me when the skeptics come knocking, Not because you agree with every decision I make, but because you understand the bigger picture. At SpaceX, my team respects me not because I'm the boss, but because they know I'm all in on getting humanity to Mars, a planet 140 million miles away. They see the sleepless nights, the impossible deadlines, the risks I take when everyone else calls it crazy. That's the kind of respect I need in a partner, a woman who sees the man behind the mission and says, "What you're fighting for matters, and I'm with you." Now, let's talk about trust. Trust isn't about nodding along to everything I say or pretending I'm always right. It's about creating a safe harbor where I can share my wildest ideas, like building a city on Mars with 1 million people by 2050 and know you won't laugh or roll your eyes. It's about being able to admit my doubts, my fears, the moments when I wonder if I'm in over my head, and knowing you won't use that against me. Let me take you back to a moment that tested me. Early in SpaceX's journey, we had a launch that went so wrong it was almost comical. The Falcon 9 barely cleared the pad at Cape Canaveral before it spun out of control and crashed into the Atlantic, a $100 million fireball. The team was gutted, and I was questioning everything, my decisions, my vision, my ability to pull this off. In that moment, I didn't need someone to debug the rocket's guidance system or tell me it wasn't my fault. I needed a woman I could trust to listen, to let me vent about the physics, the engineering, the sheer frustration of it all, without judging me for being human. Trust is that space where I can say, "I'm not sure we can do this. And here, I believe in you, even when you're doubting yourself." Trust goes both ways. It's not just about me trusting you, it's about you trusting yourself. Ladies, think about the last time you held back, afraid to speak your truth because you thought it might rock the boat. Maybe it was with a boss, a friend, or a partner. That's where trust starts, with the courage, to be honest. Not in a way that tears down, but in a way that builds up. When I'm working on something like The Boring Company, trying to dig tunnels under Los Angeles at 10 times the speed of traditional methods, I don't want someone who sugarcoats things or tells me what they think I want to hear. I want a woman who's real, who'll say, "That's a bold idea, but here's a blind spot you're missing." That's trust in action, being authentic, even when it's hard, because you know it's the only way to grow. And when you bring that kind of honesty to a relationship, you create a space where both of you can be raw, real, and unstoppable. Let me share a story that ties this together. When we were pushing Neuralink to connect human brains to computers, most people thought I was out of my mind. Brain chips? Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. The skeptics were loud, the technical challenges were insane, figuring out how to implant electrodes thinner than a human hair without damaging tissue. One night, I'm up at 3 a.m., sketching out neural interface designs, wrestling with the math of signal latency. I'm frustrated, doubting if we can crack this before AI outpaces us. In that moment, I needed a partner I could trust to share that doubt with, someone who'd say, "Elon, this is crazy, but it's worth it. What if we tried this approach?" That's trust, not just believing in me, but believing in the possibility of what we can build together. It's knowing that when I'm at my lowest, after a brutal board meeting or a failed test, she's got my back, not spilling my secrets or second guessing me, but being my anchor in the chaos. Here's where it gets practical. Respect and trust show up in the everyday moments. Respect is in the way you value my drive, even when it means I'm up all night tweaking a Starship fuel tank design. It's in the way you defend my mission when the world calls me a dreamer, not because I'm always right, but because you see the why behind it. Trust is in the way you keep a confidence, even when it's tempting to share. It's in the way you listen when I'm wrestling with a problem like scaling Tesla's battery production to 1 terawatt hour per year without rushing to solve it, but giving me space to think out loud. I've had moments where I felt like I was carrying the world alone, like when regulators tried to block our gigafactory expansion, threatening thousands of jobs. In those moments, I didn't need someone to fix the bureaucracy. I needed a woman I could trust to say, "You're not in this alone. We'll figure it out." Ladies, here's your challenge. Cultivate respect and trust, starting with yourself. Respect your own worth, your talents, your ability to make a difference. Trust your instincts, your voice, your capacity to change the game. When you do, you become a woman who's not just desirable, you're irreplaceable. You become the kind of person who can walk into any room, any challenge, and say, "I'm here, and I've got this." Respect and trust are the pillars that make a partnership unbreakable, that let two people dream bigger, fight harder, and love deeper. They're what make the wildest adventures possible because, no matter how rough the storm, you're not facing it alone. Think about the last time you honored someone's passion, maybe a friend chasing a dream, or a colleague pouring their heart into a project. That act of respect didn't just lift them up, it made you stronger too. It gave you clarity, confidence, a sense of being part of something bigger. At Tesla, when we respect each other's contributions, whether it's an engineer solving a battery density problem or a designer crafting a car's sleek lines, we don't just build products, we build a legacy. The same goes for trust. When my Neuralink team trusted me enough to dive into the unknown of brain-machine interfaces, we didn't just push boundaries, we redefined them. That's what I want in a partner. A woman who respects my mission and trusts me enough to share her own dreams, her own fears, her own crazy ideas. Imagine sitting with me at 2 a.m., sketching plans for a Martian habitat with a 100,000 person capacity, and instead of saying, "That's impossible," she says, "What if we added a hydroponic farm here?" That's the kind of partnership that can withstand anything, a force that moves mountains, or in my case, planets. So ladies, don't settle for relationships that don't demand respect and trust from both sides. Don't settle for a life where you're not valued for your unique fire, or where you can't be real without fear of judgment. When you embody these qualities, you're not just building a relationship, you're building a movement. You're becoming a woman who can stand next to someone with a mission as big as mine and say, "I'm with you, and together, we're going to make this epic." Respect and trust aren't just about seeing someone else's value, they're about recognizing your own and using that clarity to build a life that's not just lived, but conquered. Ladies, we've journeyed through the pillars that make a partnership legendary: loyalty, the steel spine that holds firm in the face of chaos; feminine energy, the spark that balances my relentless drive with grace; respect and trust, the twin forces that turn two people into an unstoppable team. Now, let's talk about the final piece, the one that ties it all together like the oxygen in a rocket's fuel mix: nurturing support. This isn't about being a cheerleader or a yes woman, far from it. It's about being my ally, my anchor, the one who sees the weight I carry and lifts me up instead of piling on more. My life is a battlefield every day, fighting to electrify the world, colonize Mars 140 million miles away, keep humanity ahead of the AI curve. It's a grind that never stops, a constant push against the impossible. I need a woman who nurtures my spirit, supports my dreams, and gives me the strength to keep going when the world feels like it's caving in. And here's the real deal. When you become that kind of woman, you're not just transforming a relationship, you're becoming a force that inspires, heals, and reshapes the world around you. Let's wrap this up with a call to action that'll make you unstoppable. Picture this. It's 2019, and I'm in the Tesla Gigafactory in Shanghai, trying to get production online at a pace nobody thought possible. We're racing to build 3,000 Model 3 second a week in a new market with supply chain nightmares, language barriers, and regulators breathing down our necks. I'm pulling 16-hour days, sleeping in a cot next to the assembly line, my brain fried from debugging automation software. The pressure's insane: billions of dollars, thousands of jobs, and Tesla's global expansion on the line. The media is circling, ready to pounce if we miss our targets. In that moment, I don't need someone to lecture me on logistics or add to the stress. I need a woman who gets it, who sees the stakes cutting global CO2 emissions by millions of tons and says, "Elon, you're not in this alone. We'll make it happen." That's nurturing support, not fixing my problems, but being the calm in my storm, reminding me why I'm fighting in the first place. It's about seeing the human behind the mission, celebrating the wins, and holding space for the losses. Support isn't about coddling or babying someone. It's about being a partner in the truest sense, a co-conspirator in the mission. When I'm up at 4 a.m., sketching designs for a Starship heat shield that can survive re-entry at 20,000 miles per hour, I need someone who respects that drive but knows when to pull me back. Maybe it's saying, "Hey, you need a break. Let's watch a sci-fi flick for an hour." Not because she's trying to control me, but because she cares enough to keep me grounded. I remember a moment when we finally got the Tesla Semi prototype on the road, a 500-mile range electric truck that could haul 80,000 pounds. The team was buzzing, but I was drained, second guessing every decision that got us there. I needed a woman who could share that moment, who'd say, "You did it, and I knew you could." That's the kind of support that refuels a guy like me, that keeps the fire burning when the tank's running low. Now, let's flip this around, because this isn't just about what I need, it's about what you can become. Ladies, think about the last time you lifted someone up. Maybe it was a friend who was crumbling under stress, a coworker who needed a push to finish a project, or even yourself when you were ready to throw in the towel. That's your power, your ability to nurture, to inspire, to create a space where someone can recharge and keep fighting. That's not weakness, it's strength, the kind that turns a good team into a great one, a good life into an extraordinary one. At SpaceX, I've seen how a single word of encouragement can turn a demoralized engineer into someone who solves a problem we thought was impossible, like stabilizing a rocket landing on a platform 200 feet long in the middle of the ocean. That's what you bring to a relationship, ladies. When you embrace nurturing support, you become the catalyst that makes everything possible. This isn't about sacrificing yourself or putting your dreams on hold. Far from it. I'm not here trying to make humanity a multiplanetary species, but I'm not a one-man show. I need a woman who's chasing her own dreams. Maybe she's building a startup that's disrupting an industry, creating art that shifts how people see the world, or leading a movement that changes lives. I want to be the one who supports her too. When she's up against the wall fighting her own battles, I want to be the guy saying, "You've got this, and I'm right here." That's how we build something bigger than ourselves. It's like building a Tesla Gigafactory. Every piece, every person, every moment of support makes the whole thing stronger, faster, better. When we finally got the Shanghai factory online, producing 500,000 cars a year, it wasn't just my win, it was the teams, the supporters, the believers. That's what a partnership should be. Two people lifting each other up to conquer the impossible. What does nurturing support look like in the real world? It's in the small things that add up. It's knowing I need an hour to decompress with a book about interstellar travel after a 16-hour day without making me feel guilty. It's celebrating when we hit a milestone like a new solar roof that generates 2 megawatts a year, even if you don't know the tech behind it. It's understanding that sometimes I need to disappear into my work, just like I understand you need space to chase your own passions. Support is about giving each other the freedom to be who we are, knowing we've got a partner who's always in our corner. I recall a time when we were testing the Hyperloop concept, trying to move pods at 700 miles per hour through a vacuum tube. The skeptics were loud, the physics was brutal, and I was drowning in calculations. I didn't need someone to solve the equations for me. I needed a woman who'd say, "Elon, this is bigger than the doubters. Keep pushing." That's the kind of support that turns a vision into reality. Ladies, here's where it gets real. These five qualities, loyalty, feminine energy, respect, trust, and nurturing support, aren't just my checklist for a partner. They're a blueprint for becoming a force of nature, for building a life that echoes across the universe. Let's step back and think about what it means to live with purpose. My days are spent wrestling with challenges that sound like they're ripped from a sci-fi novel. Building electric cars that outrun gas, guzzlers, landing rockets on tiny platforms in the Atlantic, wiring brains to keep up with AI. But these aren't just projects, they're my bet on humanity's future, my way of saying we can be more than we are today. The woman I want by my side isn't just along for the ride. She's got her own fire, her own dreams, her own way of making the world better. He's the one who can sit with me in a control room, watching a Starship launch toward orbit, and know that her presence, her loyalty, her energy, her respect, her trust, her support is part of what got us there. This isn't just about relationships, it's about you standing in your own power. Ladies, ask yourself, what's your Mars? What's the one thing that makes your heart race, that keeps you up at night, that you'd fight for no matter the odds? Maybe it's launching a business that changes lives, creating art that moves souls, or raising a family that reshapes the future. Whatever it is, own it. Make it your North Star. Because when you commit to something bigger than yourself, you start to demand more, not just from others, but from yourself. And that's where the magic happens. When you live with loyalty to your vision, embrace your unique energy, respect your own worth, trust your instincts, and lift others up, you become more than just a person. You become a movement, a catalyst, a force that can't be ignored. Let me share one last story. When we were building the Tesla Gigafactory in Texas, it was like trying to move a mountain. We were racing to scale battery production to 100 gigawatt hours a year, dealing with labor shortages, supply chain chaos, and critics who said we'd never pull it off. There were nights when I doubted myself, when the weight of it all felt too heavy, billions in investment, thousands of jobs, and the future of clean energy on the line. But then I'd look at my team, the people who showed up every day, not because it was easy, but because they believed in the mission. They were loyal to the idea of a world powered by sustainable energy. They brought their unique strengths, respected the vision, trusted the process, and supported each other through the grind. That's what got us through, and it's what I want you to take away from this. You don't need to be a rocket scientist or a CEO to live like this. You just need to find your own mission and commit to it with everything you've got. I've learned the hard way that settling for less gets you nowhere. When I started Tesla, people said electric cars were a niche, good for maybe 1% of the market. When I launched SpaceX, they said private companies couldn't compete with NASA's $18 billion budget. Every time I've ignored the doubters and aimed higher, I've come out stronger. The same applies to you. Don't settle for a life that's just okay. Don't settle for relationships that don't challenge you to grow. Demand more of yourself, of the people around you, of the world you're building, because when you do, you're not just living, you're creating a legacy. Ladies, this is your moment. Your power lies in your ability to show up as you are loyal, vibrant, respectful, trustworthy, supportive, and bring that energy to everything you do. When you lean into these qualities, you're not just attracting a partner like me, you're attracting a life that's bigger, bolder, more meaningful. You become the woman who can sit with me at 3 a.m. talking about how to build a Martian colony and then make me laugh with a perspective I'd never considered. You're the one who walks into a room full of skeptics and makes them believe not because you're loud, but because you're magnetic. That's the power of living up to your potential, of daring to be extraordinary. And gentlemen, this isn't just for the ladies. These qualities, loyalty, energy, respect, trust, support, aren't gendered, they're human. They're what make any partnership, any mission, any life worth living. So find your own way to embody them, find your own way to show up, to lift others up, to chase something bigger than yourself. Because when you do, you're not just building a relationship, you're building a future, a world where the impossible becomes reality, where dreams like colonizing Mars or saving the planet aren't fantasies, but missions we achieve together. So, what's your Mars? What's the dream that's calling you? Are you ready to step up to become the kind of woman who doesn't just stand by a visionary, but becomes one? The universe doesn't reward mediocrity. It rewards those who dare to dream big, who take risks, who refuse to settle. I've built my life on that principle, and I have no regrets. I'm not asking you to be me, I'm asking you to be you, the boldest, most unstoppable version of you. Because when you do, you're not just changing your life, you're changing the world. You're becoming the spark that ignites a future that's not just big, it's out of this world. So go out there, find your mission, and build a life worth fighting for. You have the power to make the impossible possible.